Hello again, and welcome to the final installment of the UMNI, United Minmatar Nation Industries Mining Operations How We Do Things series. I'm Shinji Kurita, and I'm back again with the last bit of information I'm going to try and impart. Briefly, if you haven't watched the other episodes, play back and watch them. They're not very long. I try and keep them under 10 minutes. You can sit through them and honestly, so that they fit on YouTube, because I can't have anything longer than 10 minutes. So, but do take the time to watch the previous ones in this series. Please go back and take a quick look at those, because I'm going to assume that you know most of the information that I've already covered there, and this particular video will only will be very focused and assume that you know that information already. So, previously in the series, we covered and how we mine when we're in the field. This is going to cover the last two things you see there: the hauling and the refining section. We're going to talk about getting that ore, getting it out of the asteroid belts and back to the corporate hangar, where we turn it into minerals that sell for the money that we use to buy things like battleships. So, obviously, this is the hauling and refining section, and if you've never seen it before, that is a screenshot of the outside of the Leisure Group Studios base there in Oxygen. So, and there's me in an Indy. All right. Why do things this way? Obviously, we talked about this before, and it's simply a matter of getting ore and things out of and back into the hangar, so that we can all profit. And then obviously, once again, the upside of this and the things that we're describing here is they do help us speed up the process. They do make things faster, but they do make us less safe. But by following these simple things, you're going to see that it's actually, if we're doing it properly, the risk is minimal. So I'm not going to cover ship-to-ship combat or anything like that. Like I said, this is simply and purely a mining and hauling thing. So things you're going to want to remember when you're out there in a hauler is how to fit your hauler correctly. Really, you want to get the biggest Indy ship that you can safely fly. Most of the time, if you get Minmatar Indy 2, you can fly a hoarder. It takes like a couple of hours, and you're in a hoarder. Try and get that right away. Anybody who's going to want to participate in these ops, even if you're not a miner, go ahead and train that. It takes 2 hours. You're in an Indy, and you're out there with a very being able to haul a very decent amount of ore. If you're a little more into it and you haul stuff on a regular basis, take the time to haul or to train Minmatar Indy 4, I think, and fit out a mammoth. Those things are fantastic. I'll show you a little bit more about fitting out an Indy later. Really, there's only two things. Number one, put expanded cargo hold 2s on there as you can fit. The key here is you're not going to go drag racing in this thing. You're essentially going to warp to a can and warp back to the station. And to do that, all you really need to do is warp there, load as much stuff as you can into your hold, warp back, dump it off, rinse and repeat. Rinse, lather, repeat, excuse me. And it happens over and over again. So the only other thing you might want to fit, and I'll explain this in the demo, is possibly throwing a tractor beam on your Indy for special situations. So don't worry about fitting it out as a combat vehicle. It's not practical. You're not going to be fighting in this thing. It's simply to get the ore from the belt to the station as rapidly as possible. So the second thing we're going to cover, and I'll show you this, like I said, I'll explore all of this in the demo, is the use of bookmarks. Now when I say bookmarks, there's actually two ways that you're going to use bookmarks. One is you're going to want to bookmark the can where you're at in the belt, so that when you warp out, you can warp there and warp back without having to drive a whole long distance. You can use the warp to 0 and get there and get back. But the one that's pretty simple, and anybody who's played EVE, is going to know how to do that. The thing that when I talk about bookmarks, what I'm really concerned about is creating a bookmark and using it to mark the materials, the ore that we're hauling out of the thing, and keep it separate so that we can identify it later once it's refined, and make sure that everybody who was involved gets paid. in a timely fashion. So, and like I said, I'll demonstrate that how that actually works when we get to the demo. The final thing is the forums, and on those forums is a specific section called an AAR, an after action report. Those are used to create ongoing logs of how much ore was pulled out of how much ore was pulled out of a belt, who was involved in the op, and then Soli can go back and look at those and mark them as paid essentially, and we have an ongoing record so that nobody gets shafted when it comes to payouts. So make sure that you're doing those or that somebody in the operation is doing those. May not be you, but make sure that somebody is posting those things to the forums. Costco has worked very hard to give us a nice looking forum. Please use them. And that means going out there, taking the 5 minutes that after action report demands and getting it done. So, all right, I'm not going to bore you with a whole lot of details on this one. We're going to jump right out into the demo and get that taken care of and see where we can go from there.